Hello, welcome to episode 44 of Fluffy Fibres, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting, spinning and living green, all of course with the occasional help of the kitty of the house. Hello everyone and welcome back. I am filming this on the very same day that I filmed episode 43, which is April the 21st, 2016. I changed my outfit so that you could enjoy the other dress I made. So if you haven't watched episode 43, because it's been so long since I last podcast, I had so much to share that I decided to split my content into 2 episodes. So episode 43 was all about the knitting and the spinning, and also I announced the winners for the cute dress sew along and for the fondant fibre giveaway. And this episode will be concerned with all of the sewing and the quilting, which is the very exciting thing for me over the past few weeks. And is that I've started to learn to teach myself how to quilt. And to start with, however, I also wanted to just give you a little update about the podcast schedule. I mentioned in the previous episode that I am becoming increasingly tired. I'm now in the 3rd trimester of my pregnancy, and I realise I really cannot commit to any regular schedule anymore. It wouldn't be realistic, and it would just add some frustration on your part because you would be waiting, and I probably wouldn't be able to podcast every 2 weeks the way I used to. And also it would be just too much of a pressure on my part. My word for the year is serenity, and so one step I'm taking towards maintaining this serenity is not to commit to a regular podcasting schedule in the few months to come. I will podcast every time I feel up to it, but I can't tell for certain whether it's going to be as regular as it used to. And the second thing I wanted to mention was the question of the audio podcast, which I mentioned a few months ago, and I've received a lot of feedback about that. Most of you now have switched to the video version, a vast majority of you. I do know that some of you are still very attached to the audio version, and I completely understand because as a commuter myself, I know how precious it is to have audio podcasts for your commute or for running or any other task. However, it is just too much work for me to continue doing both, and there are 2 things really. It's too much work, but especially I'm just not happy with the way the audio podcast has had to go lately because of a lack of time on my part, and it's just not in keeping with the quality that I want to put out. I'm just not happy with having that kind of thing go around, really. And so, with a lot of, I've thought so much about that, and I really do appreciate that some of you cannot watch easily the podcast. But I really, with my current health and the month that are going to follow the birth as well of my little boy, I just can't add up that extra commitment, that extra load, because it's just too much. And so I really am aware that it's not going to please everyone, but from now on, this is going to be the last podcast that I put on iTunes. So all the previous episodes will be still available on iTunes, episodes 1 to 44. But after that, if you want to find me, go onto my website, fluffyfibres.com, or go on to Ravelry. I'm Fluffy Fibers over there. I'm also Fluffy Fibers on Instagram. And just find that way to get in touch and to be updated about the future podcasts, which will all be hosted exclusively on YouTube. So that's the way it's going to be after this particular episode. Also, since this morning we had works, road works, and now we have works right underneath. I mentioned in episode 42 that the whole floor underneath was being completely destroyed and rebuilt, and so they've been making a lot of noise for the past month, including weekends, which is the most annoying thing, really. But yeah, that's the way it goes. But they're here this afternoon. They weren't here this morning. They're here this afternoon. So I hope all the noise won't be too distracting and too obnoxious to you. I do apologise if that is the case. So for this episode 44, the segments will include a handmade wardrobe, a bit of sewing, a bit of quilting, and then I'll talk about all of my future projects in terms of sewing and quilting. So for a handmade wardrobe, I'm going to insert a clip here, actually showing you the dress in its full length, and it's one of the two dresses I've made since the last podcast. So this is Simplicity 1360, and obviously it is a maternity dress. It is especially designed for maternity wear, and I made this out of fabric that had been in my stash for several years, and it's cotton knit, pretty lightweight knit, pretty slinky really, which I think is nice for this. I'm still undecided about the sleeves. I think maybe they're a little bit too long really for me, and too big. I think fitted sleeves would work better for me. So yes, also it's super low cut. I actually added about 5 centimeters, 2 inches, a 5 centimeter and 2 inch seam here to bring the neckline up a bit, but it's still pretty low. So yes, Simplicity 1360, and I made the view with the short sleeves, but I'm considering ditching the sleeves actually, because I don't think they're that cute. They're really wide, and they make my arms look wider than they are, I think, and they're not really flattering. I actually shortened them quite a bit from the original length. I'm thinking of ditching them altogether, or really making maybe tiny cap sleeves, I don't know. But I don't think they're that cute really on me. And over that, because it's pretty chilly, I'm wearing my Love's Promise cardigan, which I was wearing in episode 43 as well this morning. So, for a bit of sewing, so first of all, obviously I made this dress. And the reason why I actually changed outfits today, like a star, is that this dress looks horrible on a hanger, because it's got so much fabric everywhere. It looks saggy on a hanger, and it really wouldn't have worked to show it to you, just on a hanger. It would have looked horrible. It needs to be filled out. And actually, wearing today, I think it's a bit too big. I made a size 10 for the front and a size 8 for the back. And but I think I should maybe take in the sides a little, because I think it's a bit too big, and it's because of that, because you have so much fabric at the front, it tends to fall down a little. I'm not sure if that will come through in the clip that I inserted earlier, but wearing it today for the first time, I'm thinking it's actually a bit too big. So this pattern was sent to me by a friend, a sewing friend, who is Helen So Stylish. She's Helen So Stylish on Instagram, and she has the So Stylish blog. sostylish.blogspot.com, and it's so SEU, of course. She's also on Ravelry. And we've known one another, we've been sewing friends for a long, long time, probably about 10 years actually. And so she very kindly sent this to me. She used it for herself. So I really like this dress. I think I'm going to wear it a lot. I don't see myself making another one of these though, because it's so distinctive with the knot and yeah. So I'm going to pass it on to someone else. I did cut out the size 10, and because I knew I wanted to pass it on, usually I would cut a size 8 for my back and cut the size 10 for the front, because that's the way it works for me. But because I knew I was going to pass it on, I cut a size 10 all around and then adjusted my own pattern, my own fabric. So anyone who's interested in that, the way to contact me is through I would ask you to contact me through the comments on the blog at fluffyfibers.com under the show notes for this episode. So no Ravelry messages, no Instagram messages, because I want this to be outside of Ravelry and Instagram so that anyone can ask for it, even if you're not on Instagram or Ravelry, which could be completely the case if you're a sewist. So there you go. If you want this, it's up for grabs. The only thing is, because I'm so short on time at the moment, I will only be sending you this. I won't be adding any extras, little treats, the way I usually do when I send out a package. So don't be disappointed if you're claiming if you want this and I send it to you. There won't be tons of little extra things in the package. There will be the pattern though. So I guess that's what you want really. So about the alterations, I didn't make any, I think. I really like simplicity patterns. I've already said that before. The instructions are really clear, and it's very tricky, the knot that you have to do. This knot here is pretty tricky to make, but it's very well explained, and you have lots of schematics to help you. So I felt it was really great, really a good pattern. And they do have you stabilize the shoulder seams with grosgrain ribbon, which is, I always do that. Even if it's not specified, I always stabilize my shoulder seams with grosgrain ribbon in a knit dress or top, because it helps with the weight, because of course this whole dress hangs from the shoulders, so it helps with the weight of the knit, and it helps to keep the shoulders so that the shoulders are not distorted or stretch out really too much. So yeah, I used my cover stitch for the hem, for the hems, so the bottom hem and the sleeves. I'm not sure if you can see, but I used my cover stitch for that. And as I said in the little clip, the only thing that's different, that I made differently, is raise the neckline a little bit, and it's still pretty low, but I think if I cinch it a bit, it will fall less, I guess. The fabric is pretty heavy really, since it's so slinky. So yes, that's for my first dress. And then yesterday I made this dress. So the reason why I've been able to do so much sewing, and I should really have addressed this at the very beginning of the podcast, and the reason why I'm in my living room as well, if you haven't watched the previous episode 43, I'm on my own this week, all week I'm on my own with Petite Mignonne and the baby, but because of that, before Seb left for his conference, I asked him to carry my sewing machine downstairs. And so my sewing machine is downstairs on my huge desk, which is super comfortable. There were two reasons for that. One was that I wanted to quilt a massive quilt, and I needed my big table for that. And the second and the main reason was that I wanted to sew this week. I knew that this was the best opportunity I would have to sew loads, because when my daughter's hair it's difficult to, you need to concentrate when you're sewing. You really need to be fully focused on what you're doing, and so you can't have a child next to you, and so I have my sewing time has been very, very limited ever since I had my daughter. And so I knew this week, if my sewing machine was downstairs, I would be able to get loads done, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm super pleased about that. Yeah, and the other reason was that, as I mentioned in the previous episode, my sewing room is in a little turret, literally a little turret, which is up a flight of stairs of steep stone stairs, and I just didn't want to be going up and down the stairs all the time to sew whilst I was on my own this week. So, and yes, because I've been on my own this week, today's Thursday, I've been able to sew so much, and it's just felt fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And so yesterday afternoon, I was able to make an entire dress, which is the one I'm wearing in episode 43. So if you want to see it in its entirety, there's a clip at the beginning of the episode where you can see it worn, being worn. And so this is the so my pattern is the Perfect Nursing Top by Megan Nielsen. She is a super fabulous indie pattern designer when it comes to maternity clothing. She also designs other kinds of clothes, but she really started with maternity clothing, I think. And so I got that when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I made this, I think I got that after my daughter was born, just as a nursing top. And I made a dress out of this 4 years ago, which is this one. So yes, it's a mauve dress, and this was really a nursing dress. I made this for the summer, the first summer my daughter was born. And it was very handy actually, because it meant I was able to try this on before I cut out, this dress, to see if I needed to adjust the size to wear it as a maternity dress. And as it turned out, it looked super cute and really fine. So I decided to use the same sizes for this dress, which is obviously both a maternity dress and a nursing dress. And so I used size S for the front and XS for the back. Yes. And the story behind this pattern is that Megan Nielsen is fantastic, and she has since revamped all her line, all of her pattern line, and it's now available as PDF. Back then, it was only available as a paper pattern, so as you can imagine, I've paid about the same amount of money for the shipping as I did for the pattern. And I'm sure a lot of you in Europe will agree with me, but PDF patterns have completely changed our way to sew, indeed patterns, because back then, even 5 years ago, if you wanted to use an indie pattern, you had to buy the printed version and have it shipped to you, often from the States or Australia or even England, the UK. And it really was a hindrance. I know sometimes I just wouldn't get it because it would be too expensive. I did get this one because I really thought it would be super handy. And what I wanted to say is that when Megan Nielsen created the PDFs, so now she has all these patterns both as paper patterns and as PDFs. And she sent an email to all of her previous customers with download links to the PDF patterns. So it meant it's pretty recent, it's just a few months ago that she did that, which was perfect timing for me, of course. So a few months ago, I got an email with a download link explaining that because the pattern had now been revamped and put into a PDF, I could also have the PDF pattern, which is fantastic. And now it's no longer called the Perfect Nursing Top, it's the Amber Nursing Top and Dress. So of course for this one, because I wanted a dress, I just lengthened the, this part to make a dress. But with the PDF, I had a pattern ready, the sketch ready. So I printed that out, and I'm such a convert for PDF patterns, and I got asked several times the past few months how I trace and store my sewing patterns. And the answer is, at first I used to trace everything when I didn't know really about my size, but now that I do, especially for the big four patterns, Simplicity, Vogue, Butterick, McCall's, I know exactly what size I am in these patterns. So I do cut the pattern, and I cut it to my size because A, I know it's my size. B, I'm unlikely to change drastically sizes along, as time goes on. At least as long as this pattern will be, fashionable, I guess, in style. And C, it's very rare that I do make patterns. Well, it's not that rare, but I don't make patterns. Well, I don't make patterns for, sew garments for other people. So I don't have to keep the pattern in separate sizes. The only case when I do is for my daughter, because obviously she grows and I want to keep the dress or the top pattern and be able to sew it later, a few years later. But I do have to say, so yes, just to finish on this topic, I do cut out my patterns to my size, and when I'm done with it, I carefully fold everything back, the tissue paper, and I put it back into the pattern envelope. And that's how I store my patterns. I have a set of drawers in my sewing room where all of my patterns are stored. And yeah. But now that we have PDFs, it's even handier, because it means you can print out your pattern, tape it, cut it out. And if it's not the right size, or if you want to, for instance, for my daughter, if I want to make a size 4 years today and next year I want to make a size 5, it's completely okay. I can print it out again next year and it will be fine. And also, you don't need to worry about damaging or tearing or losing a pattern piece. It doesn't matter. You have it for always on your computer. But yes, so I love PDF patterns. It means you can get any pattern anywhere in the world and you can alter it and not be afraid to ruin it. And that's just fantastic, especially for indie patterns, because you're not sure of your size in indie patterns, of course. So yes, so I feel like I'm talking really fast, so I'm going to have a sip of water and take a deep breath and continue talking about this. So, for this dress, hope you can see it properly, but again, you can see a clip of it being worn in my previous episode. It's a very pretty nursing dress with a nursing panel, which means you have cutouts. You have a modesty panel, but with cutouts at the sides to allow for nursing. And you have pleats for the bust. You have pleats for the bust, and then you have pleats for the waist as well. So you have a midriff band and it's an empire waist, and the pattern has you make the pleats go outwards which I don't think is very flattering actually, especially for a non-pregnancy dress, for a non-maternity dress. So I pleated this my usual way, inwards, rather than outwards. You see how the pleats, you know, they radiate from the center out, and it's much more flattering. So it billows less, really. So that's one alteration I made, and the other major alteration I made was in the order of construction, but I always do that for any pattern. This pattern has you sew the bodice together, the upper bodice together, and then the midriff together at the sides, and then assemble this to that, and then have the sew the skirt together at the sides, and then sew the skirt to the midriff band. I never do that, because it means, if you do that, it means all of your side seams are going to be finished and crossed by the horizontal seams. And then if it doesn't fit well, obviously the way in which it most of the time it doesn't fit is of course at the sides. So if it doesn't fit well, you would have to deconstruct everything. So what I do is I sew everything horizontally, if you want. I sew the front bodice to the front midriff, and I sew the front midriff to the front skirt, and then I do the same for the back. And then I have one giant seam. I also sew the sleeves. I always do that for knits as well. I always sew the sleeves to the top before I sew the side seam, the sleeve seam. And then it means I can go in one fell swoop. I can, do a seam from the very edge of the sleeve down to the hem. And so it's a lot easier to adjust after that. Especially as, this is finished on the serger, obviously. Once you've finished seams on the serger, if you've serged them together, the two seams, the two allowances together, there's no going back, is there? I mean, you can, but it's completely very, very tedious. So it means if I take that inside out, there you go. So it means, what you do is that you sew this, go by stages as well to earn time So I first did the upper bodice, cover stitch the edge. So that's another machine, that's my cover stitch, which is a lot less necessary than a serger if you're considering getting one. I got my cover stitch a lot later than I did my serger, and it's something you can completely, do without, and still have nice finishes. You can use a twin needle on your sewing machine, have the same result. Because I used to sew so many knits, I eventually got one, and I really use it a lot for these edge finishes. But again, it's not indispensable the way a serger is, I think, to have a properly finished garment. So yes, so what I did is I sewed so I did all the assembly for the panel, and then I sewed this together, and then I sewed, and actually I sewed this, and the top to the midriff to the skirt. I did the same for the back, and then and I sewed the shoulder seams, and then I went to my serger and serged it all, because none of these seams are crossing, right? But then you need to do that before you do all of the other seams, because once you have crossed seams, it's very, you can't do a proper serger finish. You're going to be stuck by the seam. So yes, and then I did the side seams, and the sleeve seam, and then the side seam and serging. So yes, that's my alteration really, is the order of construction. I always do that, always, for knits, and I always also sew the sleeve seam in one go with the side seams. A lot of people do that when sewing with knits, because it makes fitting in the sleeve a lot easier. You can't do that with woven fabrics, because you need, and patterns that are intended for woven, because you need that extra, your sleeves are going to have some extra ease in woven fabric. You need an extra ease, and you need to ease this, ease the sleeve into the armhole. So that's a lot more fiddly, but not so for knits. Knits, you don't need that extra ease in sleeves. So yes, the fabric I'm so in love with. I think it's so fresh. This light grey with big polka dots, white polka dots. I think it's so fresh and cute. And I got this fabric a few months ago with through a new website to me, which is called Butinet, but I think it's a German website. They have a German website and a French website. If I recall, it did come from Germany. It's a super website, fabric website. They have great fabrics in there, lots of choices, lots of various qualities as well of knits. So you can get the really, this is not this fabric, this fabric is from Deep Stash, but this was very cheap. It was €2 or €3 a meter. This is higher end. I'd say it's mid-range. It was €10 a meter, and I needed 1.5 meters. So because I already had the pattern in my stash, and because in a knit dress you don't need anything else, you don't need a zipper, you don't need any extra notions, you just need the fabric and thread, obviously. But it meant this cost me a total of €15 for a custom fit dress, nursing dress and maternity dress, with this beautiful, beautiful fabric, which I know will hold with time very well. And yeah, so I'd say it's a mid-range price, and it's very, very good quality. Mid-range because up there you have the designer knit fabrics, which are about €20 a meter, which is really expensive. So it's super, excellent quality, really. I'm very, very happy about it. It's not super stretchy. It doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, as you can see. Just enough, and it works. It fits well. It's not uncomfortable. I still have some room to grow, so that's great. But it's not super, super stretchy. But they're very. The website is very precise about the type of fabric, the weight of fabric, which is so important when you're buying online. And that's something I do recommend. If you're buying online, do inform yourself about the weight, how many grams per square meter it is. That's really going to be a major information for you to give you an idea of the weight of the fabric. So this is a medium weight knit, cotton knit. So yes, it was butinet.com. I'm not sure they have an English website though, which is a shame because it's a great, great European fabric website. I know Maria of Stitched in Sweden just was wondering about fabric shops, online fabric shops in Europe, and I really do need to message you about that, Maria. But I was thinking about that, and then I checked actually for you online, and it doesn't seem as if they have an English website. So I'm not sure how handy it would be for you to have either the French or the German website, but it's a great website. I'm going to show the other two fabrics that I got in this order later when I talk about my projects. For a bit of quilting, actually a lot of quilting. So if you recall, at the very beginning of the year, the first episode I did at the beginning of the year, I'm going to put that back here as a backdrop. I mentioned I wanted to learn quilting this year. Really learn, not just dabble in it the way I may have had in the past, but really properly quilt, you know, and that's what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks, which is extremely exciting. So, I don't know about you, but when I start learning a new craft, I'm just so thrilled. It's just such happy moments when you realise the world of possibilities that open up to you, the world of things to learn and to learn how to master. There is this element of not fear, but you do know there's going to be this steep learning curve, and at first it's a bit discouraging. You feel so awkward and you know, such a beginner really. But then once you start to get, you know, once it starts to click, it's just so satisfying. So to give you an idea, what I wanted to do was learn especially free motion quilting. So to give you an idea, I started with this, and I'm going to go bigger and bigger as the episode goes on. I started with this, which is from a mini charm pack that I got in London at Ray Stitch with my friend Danny of the Little Bobbins podcast. And so this is the first one I made, and the piecing isn't great, as you can probably see. And then I free motion quilted it, which isn't that bad actually. I'm not sure if you can see the back. And then I wanted to improve my piecing. So I still used the same charm, it's a mini charm pack, and I cut so a mini charm pack is by Moda, and it's 2.5-inch squares. You have 40 or 42 in there. And so I cut all the squares into 4 mini squares. And then I did this one, and this is going to be, well, it's bigger, but these two are going to be like mug coasters. So this one is just pieced, it's just the top that's pieced. I haven't quilted it yet, sandwiched it. But you see probably how it really is better. So already I was starting to improve. And then I decided to make a doll quilt for my daughter well, no, actually I made, and I will be showing this later, I pieced an entire quilt for my daughter. We haven't completely worked out yet the sleeping arrangement once the baby's here. Obviously at the beginning he'll be sleeping in our room, but ultimately he will be sharing, my daughter and him will be sharing their room. And so someday the baby will have my daughter's current bed, which is an adaptable bed. It used to be her crib, and then you can take out the bars and rebuild it into a proper little child's bed. So it's a proper bed really, but it's 70 centimeters by 140 centimeters. So ultimately this will go to the little brother. And so I decided, and we're not sure yet when we're going to do that change really, but once this bed is going to go to the baby brother, my daughter is going to have a bigger bed, really a single, the single-sized bed, an adult-sized bed really, but single. A twin, I think you say, yeah, a twin bed, that's what you say. And so I wanted to make her a quilt to go onto that future bed, if only to also celebrate that, as a big step for her. And so I made a jelly roll quilt. I got a jelly roll a few months ago, again by Moda. I am so in love with Moda fabrics. I can't get enough of it. I'm completely obsessed at the moment. I'm mad about Moda. It's just every single line of theirs, and it's just gorgeous. And the fact that they have all these pre-cuts is just so enticing. And so I got a jelly roll and I just sewed the strips, as I will show you, together, just making sure I was alternating colours and types of prints, as you will see. But once that was done, once the top was, well, that wasn't difficult, obviously. It was just sewing strips together. Once the top was done, I wanted to really practice my quilting, because I didn't want to just do straight lines, you know, quilting in the ditch or quilting around the seams. I wanted to have stippling. I love stippling. I just love the look of a quilt, a stippled quilt. Also because it's very widespread here in southern France. It's really part of the traditional quilt here, is this stippling effect. So I just feel it's just this lovely traditional touch to a quilt, you know, even though the fabrics are very modern and the colours are very modern. So I loved this meeting of, you know, tradition and freshness, I guess. So I decided to take a craftsy class, like you do when you want to learn a new skill, don't you? And I took a class by Liu Day, and it's free motion quilting assembler, and it's a phenomenal class. And I will say, not all classes are equal, I think, on Craftsy. Some of them are really fantastic, like JC Box Faulkner's spinning class is just out of, you know, it's taught me so much. Others are not so packed with information, but this free motion quilting one was really, and I'm not done watching it, it's just phenomenal. You learn so much, the reason why I chose, because you have so many classes on quilting and free motion quilting on Craftsy, it's a bit difficult to make up your mind which one is for you. But Leah actually has lots of videos on YouTube, and that's how I discovered her. And I loved her teaching style, and I thought, I wonder if she's on Craftsy, because she's so good at teaching. And indeed she was. And so it was also a way for me to acknowledge her work, the work she does on YouTube as well, you know, and to just thank her, I guess. And also, of course, the format is completely different, and everything she teaches is in one nice place. And so she's got tons of quilting, you get tons of quilting motifs in that class, free motion quilting motifs, lots of tips as well. And so I decided to apply what I learned in the class on this small doll quilt, which isn't washed yet, so it's still very stiff. So I'm not sure how well you will see, but so I pieced it again, and the fabrics in there are from my very good friend Erin, who is Mama to Abigail, and she was destashing some of her scraps, and she asked just who wanted some, and I said I would love a few of her scraps, and she sent me a ton of scraps, and so I decided to cut them into squares, piece them. Again, you see how it's improved from the other one. You know, it's getting better and better, I think, even though it's bigger, of course, so it's more forgiving, I guess. So I pieced them all, and then I stippled the center. I hope you can see that. So I free motion quilted the center, and then I added a border, a white border, and for that I think it's called a running river or meandering river. I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. But yeah, so it's a different, and I just love the way it radiates, you know, from the center. These lines, these undulating lines, just like a river. And yeah, so for the back I used some remnant I had from the aprons I made my daughter, myself and her doll for her second birthday. Or was it her third? I think it was her second. Yeah, her second birthday. And we still use them every time we bake together. So I found this in my stash. I felt it was a nice match to the prints in there. I also used that to do the binding. And I mited the corners, and I stitched the binding down by hand. So yes, that's what I did at the beginning of this week. And then I felt ready to tackle the massive quilt, which I'm going to attempt to show you, but it's huge. It's a twin size quilt. So here is the quilt. It's quilted, so it's sandwiched, it's pieced, but it's not finished. I still have to do the binding. So that's why you still have the batting showing through, and then this whole strip of fabric on the back. So I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to show this to you, but it's massive. It's really massive. Yeah, just strips and strips of fabric. This is the Prairie collection by Cory Yoda for Moda, and yeah, the never-ending quilt. So there you go. I hope you've pretty much seen all the stripes. And now I'm going to move the camera forward so that you can see the detail of it more. So yes, as you can see, I was careful to alternate. So I wrote down actually the colours and the order I wanted to have them in, so that you wouldn't have, you would have a nice distribution of all the various shades in it. And also, because you have some florals and then some graphics, I also made sure, for instance, I didn't have two sets of stripes next to each other. But that's my own brand of crazy. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to this kind of thing. But yeah, I absolutely love these prints. Again, I'm just so in love with Moda. Their fabrics are just wonderful. So yes, and as you can see, I free motion quilted this week, which is a huge endeavour, and really there is really a very steep learning curve, I think, to free motion quilting. But then, because I'd already practiced, and as I was making this one as well, I grew more and more confident, and I really started to enjoy it. And so now I really love doing this stippling. So yeah, just so you can see a little bit of the detail. So for the back, I went to my trusty Toto store, and I found this lime green polka dot, fabric with white polka dots. And I think you can never go wrong with polka dots. Again, I mean, right? I'm sure many of you will agree. You can never go wrong with polka dots. And B, as it happens, my daughter's curtains, last year, for those of you who've watched the podcast for a while, you may remember that, but last year I made, blackout curtains for my daughter, so to completely block the light. And I used a very similar fabric. It's the very same shade of lime green, also with polka dots. I got it in a completely different store a year ago, and the polka dots are much larger. But I was very pleased when I came home to see how well it matched, really. It seems to be the same collection, the same line. And I just love lime green for children's bedrooms. I think it's just such the perfect gender-neutral, happy, cheerful colour. And actually one of my next projects, and I'm now moving on to my future projects, my next quilting project is going to be a quilt for the baby boy, and I was very pleased to see that it actually matched very well. I went and rummaged into my fabric closet and my fabric cupboards, really, and because I remembered I had some organic fabric left over from when my daughter was a baby. And I found this huge piece of, well, not huge, but pretty massive though, pretty decent yardage of an organic fabric, which is super, super cute. And it's by Robert Kaufman. It's Little One screen print, and it's 100% organic cotton. And I used some of this to make some things for my daughter. I got several pieces from the collection, the fabric line, but I never ended up using this particular one. So I'm thinking I'm going to make a very simple quilt with this. Quilt the squares to give this quilted, patchwork effect, even though it won't be pieced. And I have also a matching fabric for the back. I have this one, this lovely yellow. And in fact, I was very pleased to see how well these two went together, as you can see. They're really the same kind of bright, happy colours, the same kind of shades. You have the same kind of aqua and yellows and lime green. And so I think it's going to make a fantastic room for them. Very, very cheerful room with each of them having their quilt, which is different but still goes well together and matches the curtains as well. So I'm very, very chuffed about that. And I'm super excited to be building that room decor for them and see it all come together really. So for my other projects, I wanted to share the other two fabrics I got at Butinet when I placed the order a few months ago. So one of them is this beautiful mint green cotton knit printed with turquoise stars in various shapes, various sizes. And I'm intended to actually make the perfect nursing dress again, the amber dress, but as a nighty / loungewear dress for the hospital and for the first few weeks staying home with the baby. So I'm going to make it longer. I think I'm going to keep the original length of the dress, which will be pretty long on me actually, because I'm very small, I'm very short. But yeah, I think it will be a very nice, very cozy and cute dress / loungewear / nursing nightie to look cute at the hospital, and then just to enjoy when I'm home with the baby in the first few weeks. And then the other fabric I got, I just love, and it's this, again, polka dots. I mean, you can never go wrong with polka dots. And it is this very cheerful, rainbowy kind of polka dots over a white background. Again, a jersey knit with a pretty decent amount of stretch. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. Maybe another nursing dress, because I can completely see myself spending the whole summer in these and feeling cute and still having dresses that allow me to nurse. I remember how frustrated I was with my daughter not being able to wear dresses because of the nursing. So yeah, I'll see. Or maybe another dress, I'm not quite sure yet. But I'm pretty chuffed because at the moment I have 4 with the washi dress, 4 dresses ready for the warm season, which is not quite here yet, but it will be very, very soon, I'm sure. So that's pretty fantastic. I think I'm going to be well stocked in dresses, and here in Montpellier in the summer, you really don't want to wear anything else but dresses. It's so hot. You don't want leggings or anything. You just want to wear dresses. And lastly, for my projects, my sewing and quilting projects, I would like to make 1 or 2 sleep sacks for the baby, because again, my daughter was born in February, so this kind of thing, she had super warm things, obviously. It was really, really cold when she was born. So I need some lightweight sleep sacks. And so I'm thinking, and I saw a tutorial for a jersey sleep sack, which looks so comfy, I think, because it's going to stretch. I saw a tutorial for that and a pattern for that on the Sew Mama Sew website. So it's got a zipper at the center front, and I, in my stash as well, again rummaging for the fabric I bought for my daughter I never got around to using, I found these two pieces, which are organic knit cottons, and I'm considering using them together and doing some applique with them to make a really sweet one. And I also placed an order yesterday for a couple of pieces, small pieces. You don't need much fabric for baby things. Small pieces of fabric to make another 1 or 2 sleep sacks for the summer, very lightweight, you know, just 1 layer of knit fabric. It will be plenty enough here in Montpellier. I'm thinking next time I record of maybe sharing all the things I made for my daughter, because of course I've been pulling this all out of the wardrobes and taking stock of what we have and rediscovering all my hand knits and hand sewn items for her. And I thought it would be nice to maybe share all these with you, because of course this is going to be part of the new baby's wardrobe. So that is it for this episode 44. Thank you so very much for spending your time with me chatting about sewing and quilting, and I do hope this was all interesting, and I really look forward to chatting with you again in a few weeks. So until then, have a wonderful, wonderful time. I hope your making is making you as happy as it's making me at the moment, and I will chat with you hopefully in a few weeks. So bye.